Hey guys, Drew here, back with another video, and welcome to another video talking regiment. Apologies I couldn't make a video in my studio right now. It's kind of busy in that room. So I'm going to be filming here. Hope you don't mind it. Got the little old-fashioned mic here with me. But in today's video, we will be talking more regiment, talking about their possible goaltending tandem coming into the 2025-26 season. There's a lot of options out there, a lot of invitees, you could say, a lot of draft picks as well that the regiment and Titan, of course, have been taking in their past couple of drafts. So let's get into it, talking regiment. I hope you don't mind. I have my notes right here. So if I'm looking down for a little bit of this video, that's why all the stats, everything is in here, but most of the stuff I should know already. But the first goaltender we are going to talk about is George Gallant, who was an undrafted goaltender in the Q's 2 drafts, and the main reason for that, I think, is because of his size. He's a 5'9" goaltender at 18 years old, and he was undrafted, was an invitee to the regiment last camp, I believe. He played for the Summerside Western Capitals last year, and in 27 games, he had a 24-1 record. That's not too bad if you ask me. A 2.63 goals against average and a 9.25 save percentage. Summerside Western Capitals are a Junior A franchise, so this is the league below the Q, so basically the AHL's version of the NHL, basically. They call it the Maritimes Junior Hockey League, I believe, because all the teams are basically in the Maritimes. So he played for Summerside, had some really good numbers, so if he can prove himself coming into the regiment's camp, don't be surprised to have a pretty interesting, he may have an interesting shot on making the regiment team. We're only going to have to wait and see about Gallant. Obviously 5'9" isn't too ideal for a goaltender's size. I don't think there's any NHL goaltenders that are that short. Now, you look at the CBN Junior Stars goaltender Andrew Ackerman. I know I'm talking about Junior B here, but Ackerman played really well for that Stars team. He was like 5'7", I believe, 5'8", but he was able to get the job done and win the Taylor Cup for the Stars. So Gallant, he could prove everybody wrong and possibly get himself a spot on the regiment. But at the end of this video, of course, I will talk about what tandem I think it will suit the regiment best. But now, in the next goaltender we're going to talk about is Samuel Quimper. He was drafted 121st overall by the regiment in the 2022 QMJHL draft by the Titan, you could say. He played this year for the Northern Moose of the, it's like the, Newfoundland 18 AAA league that has like the Growlers, the Blizzard, all that. He played in that league basically, but it was in New Brunswick. So he played this year for the Northern Moose, played in 21 of those games, had a 5-15-0 record. The Moose this year, they were the greatest, you could say. So he didn't have the greatest defense in front of him, had a 4.07 goals against average and an 8.94 save percentage. Not ideal numbers from Quimper, especially if you want to try to get a spot into the Q this year. He played one game, I think it was in relief for the Titan, not this year, but the season prior. Played 2 games as well this year in the MJHL. Not too bad numbers for him in those 2 games, but that's only 2 games. Ideally for Quimper, I could honestly see him getting the start of this upcoming season in Junior A and possibly graduate from Junior A to move up to the Q. So we'll see what happens with Quimper heading into this next season, and we'll see if he can get some games for the regiment in that cage. So basically, maybe if like a goaltender gets injured, maybe he'll go in or something like that. We'll talk more about him at the end of this video. I'll just let you know about that. The next goaltender is Chase Anderson, who is another undrafted goaltender, but unlike Gallant, this guy got size. He is 6'3" at 19 years old. Played this year in high school, Chess High School, in USHS, I think it's called, so United States High School. He played this year for Phillips Academy, played in 32 games, had, the stats weren't, I won't say they weren't accurate. It's just that they didn't have like the goals against average, all those like fancy record stats and all that. He played in 32 games, as I said before, led in 58 goals, and had a 9.25 save percentage, which isn't that bad at all for a guy like Anderson. Now, obviously, he is 19 years old, so he is close to graduating from the Q and possibly going up, depending on what he wants to do. But for Anderson, he may just be a guy like an option for the regiment. Obviously, we may get a couple games in the preseason. Obviously, like the two goalies will probably split the game. That's usually how it goes in the Q preseason. But Anderson, he's an interesting goaltender. Obviously, aren't bad stats for him, especially in 32 games. So for a guy like Anderson, it's only to see what happens with him in preseason, see if he can outsmart or raise an eyebrow or two for like a guy like Gordy Dwyer, and to possibly get him a chance on the Newfoundland Regiment. The next goaltender I want to talk about is a guy that a lot of people are excited about, and that name is Antoine Proulx. And I've talked about him a bit on this channel. Was drafted 23rd overall by the Titan in the 2024 draft. So obviously a second round pick, not too bad for a guy like Proulx. He played, before I talk about where he played, you're gonna have to, one theme that I noticed in these goaltenders, that Gordy Dwyer doesn't really like tall and beefy goaltenders, you could say, because Antoine Proulx is 156 pounds. If you want to make the NHL, you cannot be that light. You have to definitely gain a few more pounds and possibly get your spot into an NHL roster. He is 5'11", though, which is still on the shorter end of goaltending sizes. But you look at a guy like UC Saros on Nashville, he's like 5'11" and maybe a little shorter. Dustin Wolf is another example of that. There's definitely goaltenders out there that are on the shorter size, but they can still be a shutdown goaltender. You look at Saros, started for Finland at the Four Nations face-off and possibly at the Olympics. So Proulx is definitely a guy you're going to want to watch out for heading into this year. As I said before, played for the Lévis Chevaliers of the Quebec Junior A, or not Junior A, Quebec U18 AAA League. So hard to say these leagues, guys. But anyways, Proulx in 20 games this year. Now, there's a warning for these numbers because they're a little bit dangerous and they're exciting. A 19-1-0 record in 20 games. How was he able to do it? Honestly, those are just like NHL 25 numbers, and we haven't even read out the other stats. A 1.59 goals against average and a .939 save percentage. He was so good enough that he represented Canada White at the U17 World Hockey Challenge. He played with some really good guys, some guys like Matthews Preston was one name, Easton Belchetz. Those are some really high names in the WHL and OHL. Only got in one game, but he was so good enough that they wanted him to play at least the game in that league. And most of those guys are already playing in the QMJHL, OHL, WHL, you name it. But yeah, Proulx, he's a name you're going to want to watch out for. This is a guy that I'm excited to watch come September. Next guy we want to talk about is a guy that I have talked about just because of the draft, though. Thomas Bedard. Love that last name. He was drafted in the 7th round by the Newfoundland Regiment. Was the first ever goaltender drafted in Newfoundland Regiment history. So a little bit of something there. Obviously, as I said, he was drafted in the 7th round. He's 5'9". Now he is 15 years old, and I'm 15, and I'm 5'9". So I mean, it isn't that bad, you could say. So Bedard. Could possibly make the roster. I don't think this year is his year. Obviously, you look at some other guys that will be graduating in the next few years. Obviously, 15 years old for Bedard. He's got a couple more years to prove himself, but definitely can see him possibly on the regiment roster in a couple years. Not this year, but maybe in a couple years. Played this year for the Seminaire Blizzard. Played in 16 games, an 8.70 record, a 3.16 goals against average, and a 900 save percentage on the dot. And this is the same league that a guy like Proulx plays in the U18 league. But yeah, for numbers, for a guy at the age of 15, isn't that bad. So obviously you could possibly go back to that league next year and have even better numbers, or worse, depending on how it goes for him. But a guy like Bedard could be a guy to watch out for in a couple of years, as I said before. The next goaltender I wanted to talk about is the Latvian stud himself, Mikas Vekvanags, who was drafted 19th overall in the CHL import draft last year and was an NHL draft pick as well, drafted 5th overall by the Montreal Canadiens. There's a reason why I'm wearing Habs merch in this video, is because I don't get to do it often. Obviously my favorite NHL team. So Vekvanags played 9 games this year for the Titan in the QMJHL. Played 5 games as well in the BCHL, which is the Junior A League in British Columbia. So not a bad league at all, and especially the Q Major Junior, not bad either. But played 9 games this year. A couple of those games were in relief. Had a 1-4-0 record, a 4.38 goals against average, and an 8.67 save percentage. That is tough for a guy like Vekvanags, and you definitely want to get those numbers up come next season. So Vekvanags is a U of Maine commit coming in the 2026-27 season. So no matter what, if he makes the regiment or not, he will be going to the U of Maine come next season. So this is his last chance to possibly make it onto a Q team. And obviously those numbers aren't ideal. You don't want those numbers in the Q. And there's a reason why he played 9 games this year under a guy like Josh Fleming, who's one of the better goaltenders this year in the QMJHL. So Vekvanags, he's a guy, I could definitely see him on the roster next year, but if he doesn't make the team, I won't be that surprised either. He's just that type of guy. So yeah, Mikas Vekvanags. Look out for that name. And then the last goaltender we're going to talk about in today's video is Luca Campo, who was drafted 207th overall by the T10 in the draft. So Campo, obviously a draft pick, it wasn't an invite, so he is good enough to get drafted, but he is 155 pounds at 17 years old. He is 6 foot. So he is a little taller, but is lighter. If you want to make the regiment, obviously, as I said before in this video, you're going to want to get those numbers up, get the weights up a little bit, maybe get in that 170 range. You may have a chance to make the regiment. Played this year for Kimball Union Academy, the same, so U.S. high school. Not a bad league to get yourself developed, you could say. Played 37 games this year, and the stats obviously weren't, not obviously, the stats weren't there. Had 18 goals against this season and a 907 save percentage. So I don't know his record, don't know the goals against average, but he did have 18 goals against. If somebody is really good at math, you could definitely leave a comment down below on what his goals against average was. But now, my decision on who I think will be the starter and the backup and the third stringer, I'll say. And I do see it being a 1A, 1B situation. There isn't one guy that will be the starter. I do think it will be a back and forth role. Not so much a goaltending tandem. They won't split the season, but it will be kind of close in that realm. I'm trying to think of some names here. Think about like Sam Montembeau in Montreal. I'm not trying to be biased. Or like maybe Stolars and Joseph Woll in Toronto. Hey, my least favorite NHL team, so that's not biased at all. But definitely like a tandem-like, but there obviously will be a better goaltender than the other. But as my 1A, I got Antoine Proulx to be the starter come opening night for the Newfoundland Regiment. Those numbers that I listed, the 19-1-0 record, is just so good for a guy at his age. I think will be the starter. And I'm not the only one. I have saw online that there's people expecting him to be the starter come the home opener. And then as the 1B, I have Mikas Vekvanags. Obviously, I mentioned his numbers weren't the greatest, but if he starts this year strong, obviously he could get into more games and get his stats a little more higher. But if he does start this year and he isn't doing the greatest, you could call up a guy and send him back to the BCHL or something like that, and then he'll go to the U of Maine the year after. But Vekvanags, he's the guy I do trust in. There was a reason he was drafted into the NHL and drafted so high in the import draft. So Vekvanags, I see making the regiment as their backup, but will get into a decent amount of games come the regular season. And then as a third stringer in net, I was going back and forth making this video, thinking about who it could be. Big honorable mention to George Glant, who played really well for Summerside this year. Obviously the 9.25 and 2.63 was really good. But I have Sam Quimper, who is going to be the third stringer for the regiment come this season. He does already have, as I said before, an in-relief game for the Titan. So that means something. I mean, he got into one game. Obviously, it wasn't a full game, but he did play 2 games this year in the Junior A League and did look really good. Obviously, he didn't play on a great Northern Booth team, but if he plays really well for a team in Junior A this upcoming season, and say, as I said before, Vecmanags doesn't have that great of a year, don't be surprised to see a guy like Quimper come up the charts and possibly don the regiment's sweater come September. That's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, you can like this video. You can subscribe if you really liked it. We're on the road to 300 subscribers. We're just about there. So if you really liked today's video, as I said before, make sure to hit that subscribe button. The regiment season is coming in less than a month now. The preseason is, at least. I will be making a lot more content come the preseason, as the regiment season is coming soon. That's it for today's video, guys, and I will talk to you all again in the next video. See you guys again soon.